Are you wanting high-speed internet but don't have access to PUD fiber? Try Sky-Fi high-speed wireless internet from LocalTel. Call 888-8888 today.
Welcome to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees with Bonnie Orr. Each week, Bonnie and her co-host Dan Kuntz walk you through the do's and don'ts, the challenges, and the rewards of gardening in North Central Washington. So, let's garden.
And welcome to today's edition of Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees. I am Dan Kuntz on a drop-dead gorgeous day. Thank you, Mother Nature.
First day of summer, first full day of summer, right?
And it's about time that she said, you know what, let's give Bonnie and Dan and Mike a nice day to go out and shoot outside. Because let's face it, it's been not very fun to shoot outside.
That's right.
But we're here. It's a beautiful, gorgeous day. Speaking of beautiful and gorgeous, Bonnie Orr, Mike Hammer. Bonnie, what are we doing today? We're back at the Community Education Garden.
We're back at the with our irrigation expert, Mike Hammer. And Mike is going to show us, we looked at parts in the last program, and what we're going to do now is look at the layout and see how effective different types of drip irrigation are.
And that's critical, and we're going to talk about that, aren't we?
We are, and we'll show you some great examples.
Now, we've had a couple of updates since the last time we were here.
Some updates.
Yeah, for one thing, we're sitting on a new bench. This is kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's kind of good on my skinny little tushy. And also, Mike, you found something that we didn't have last time.
Yes, more parts. We love to play with parts. So what we have here is the filter and pressure reducer for a drip irrigation system. And this is the kind of filter that we didn't see last week. And this is a disc filter. And this one has been used, as you can see.
It's doing its job.
And it has a lot of dirt on it. And this little stack of discs comes out and can be rinsed off to clean it, and then reinserted and the cover put on. And it's good for another week or month, depending upon how clean your water is.
See, and one of the things that I think that it's really interesting to see how effectively these work, because when you look at the tiny orifice in most of the drip irrigation, if you are not using an effective filter or your filter is not clean, your system doesn't work.
It's as simple as that. And we got really good news because we have fans, because one of the people who watched this show gave Bonnie a little tip, didn't they?
A little tip, a little gift. Look at these, okay? So I had said last time that I carried around a copper wire. And this wonderful man from Eniat came in and said, oh no, you do not need a copper wire. You need these fabulous little brushes. And these are spray gun brushes, okay? And look here.
Oh, remember how we talked about how hard it is to keep those clean?
Yes.
Is that just absolutely fabulous? And so this is, and so spray gun, I mean, who would ever think? You know, people are so creative, and I'm very pleased to have these.
I love it. Can I have that?
No.
Oh, well,
no,
it was
no,
worth a shot.
It was my gift.
So
Bonnie has drip irrigation at home that she needs to care for.
Right,
That's
that
right.
I need to care for.
Before we take a quick break,
No,
how was?
I have more.
I wanted to ask real quickly because we're talking about irrigation. How is the Wenatchee Reclamation District, all the area ditches? They all but cleaned out at this point? I mean, here we are, what, late June?
Yes.
I know early on.
I'm sure they clean the ditch prior to filling it.
Right.
And then I think it depends upon what is in the river, given the rate of the runoff of snow melt, or if we've had rain. That may result in more debris being in the river. And if I understand correctly, the Wenatchee reclamation water comes from the Wenatchee River, tapped up halfway to Leavenworth, and then brought around in the canals to us. So it's open, and we're dependent on Mother Nature in that regard.
And my water is entirely different, because I'm on a really dirty part of the line, and I'm downflow from the ditch, and algae. Huge amounts of algae. And when we have a 90-degree day for the next 3 days, I can only run 6 valves before I have to clean. And so, I only water every third day because I have to, I only water part of my yard at a time. And I have to clean. I mean, it's really, but then when it cools down, there's not as much algae. But you know something? It's water, and it's reasonably priced.
It is. It is. It's reasonably priced. Where do we go from here as we take a break?
I don't want to take a break.
Well, Bonnie, we have to take a break. We have sponsors.
Okay.
When we come back, what are we going to be doing?
I want to show you my new prize.
Bonnie has a new prize, and she did not find it at the bottom of a box of Cracker Jack. I can guarantee you that. Green thumbs and dirty knees. We're back at the Community Education Garden on the west side of Wenatchee. We'll be right back right after this.
Green thumbs and dirty knees will be right back after this.
For all the latest news in North Central Washington, go to ncwlife.com or find us on Facebook. Got a news tip? Email us at news@ncwlife.com or call 888-2020.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees on the NCW Life channel.
And we're back on Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees. I am Dan Kuntz alongside Mike Hammer and Bonnie Orr. We're kind of doing we're doing an update on the irrigation drip system. A little easy for me to say, that we did a few weeks ago, and we have a couple of updates. Now, the last time we did this, Mike, we were just explaining how this black plastic pipe works and how you can put holes wherever you want, as opposed to wherever the hardware store wants it to go. What do we have here?
Well, we have Bonnie's latest find. So Bonnie, can tell me about
Okay,
this.
so I remember I was whinging about the fact that my hands, I just have the hardest time getting the barbs in. And I can use a hammer to hammer that down, but to make the hole. But getting the barbs in was really painful for me, and many other people complain about it.
Should I make a hole?
Make a hole with this new little plastic
Big
gizmo.
and easy to hold on to.
But he's going to make it look like butter because it's this thing is so warm. You can look at that.
I need to make it a little.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect.
And that wasn't hard to do, was it?
No, it was not.
Now here's the magic part. This barb will fit into the yeah.
Wow, so it's 2-in-1.
Yes.
So you poke on one side and you
That's
flip it
right.
around, put the barb in,
And we should hear a snap.
and we
And we
did.
did.
Ta-da! Is that too cool?
And that is sealed
Yes.
for the most
Yeah.
part? Okay.
Yeah.
For the entire part.
Really? Just like
Yeah.
that?
The entire part.
Just like that.
And here is another type of one that also works. I'm so excited about this new little tool.
Where did you find this?
I haven't found it in
And
town.
the man loses the part.
Yep, that's okay, Mike.
I'll be gone for a minute.
You can buy it on the internet from a place that is called Evergreen. That's the
Okay.
only place I could find it on the internet.
This internet thing's really cool too, by the
Okay,
way.
because the honest to God truth is I found this at Habitat.
Oh, really? Okay. Bonnie volunteers at Habitat for Humanity, by the way.
Okay, we'll try the blue one.
Okay.
And we already have a hole here from a previous life, so we'll see how this.
Oh,
Just like that.
Is that just too cool?
Great.
Anyway, I'm a happy girl.
And there's a huge. Mike, talk about the advantage of what?
He put that thing in his pocket.
Did you take it?
Dang, you guys weren't supposed to see that.
Mike, that's just not right. Let me ask you this, Mike. Talk about the advantages of being able to put the hole wherever you want to put the hole.
You get to put the hole wherever you want to put the hole.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the main advantage.
Right.
It's the power of decision making.
Because a lot of these come pre-drilled, right? Like every 12 or 16 inches, right?
There are some, which I have
Go ahead. Go right
here,
ahead.
and
Here,
right
Bonnie,
here
you
that's
can have it
already
back.
pre-made. This happens to be brown colored. So this has the drippers built into the tube. These are 12 inches apart, and they're great for a more densely planted area. But if you have a sparsely planted area, or you need to get water from your valve or wherever your irrigation supply is over to a garden or a number of plants a distance away, then you can use this tubing. And this doesn't have any drippers built into it. It's just pipe. And you can then connect these two together like this to feed your densely planted area. Or if you're going by a shrub on the way to the densely planted area, then you can make a hole in this pipe and water an additional plant or two just as it goes by. So the fact you can put a connection on here anywhere is really flexible and convenient.
That's my style, because what happens is that I have the pipe already laid out to going that way, and then there's this empty place and I need to stick a plant in there. You know, no empty spaces. So, I just love it because you can change your mind.
And if you don't want the hole, you can cap it too. It's the same
Correct.
thing, right?
And this is called a goof plug. Clever name, and it just snaps in to where you had a fitting where a tube or a dripper was connected, and plugs the hole, and you're good as new.
Okay, so let's go look at some applications of all these parts.
Let's go look at applications for all these parts. You're good.
And you know what? If you need, you can listen to us, and we're going to learn from Mike. But there are many little publications. This one's called Rain Drip Watering, and most places that sell drip parts also have these. And most of the time, they're either free or very low price. And it shows you how to do different types of arrangements. But we're going to see what Mike has for us.
Let's do it. Let's take a hike.
Okay.
So what we have here, Mike, you have the brown pipe.
Yes, I do.
And
With the fixed emitters inside it.
right, this is the ones that they're pre-drilled.
Uh-huh.
And here it is in an actual practical application.
So what we have here is the dripper, what's called dripper tube. And this is this kind of brown tube, 1/2-inch diameter with the drippers built in. And it's laid down on the ground in a pattern all over the area here. And this has been installed since 2011. And the plants were small when we started, and we've been irrigating it with this drip system ever since. And this is on top of the mulch so you can see it, but other places here it is indeed under the mulch, and we can cover it up when it's been installed, and you use a few of the landscape staples to hold it in place.
Are there advantages to having it covered?
Well, there must be.
I'm
There's
wondering if
aesthetics.
No, but it's not just aesthetics. I'm wondering if this breaks down in the sun.
I don't know. We haven't seen any problem with
Okay.
that so far. It would be better to have it covered because just about everything does break down in the sun.
Well, you could also trip over it.
And another aspect is if it's down next to the soil with the mulch on top, you're not wetting the mulch. Your water is going into the soil where the roots are and not in the mulch as much. Now, that's a minor aspect, but something to think about.
So if I wanted to put another plant in here, I would have to pull apart the mulch and then find where there is an emitter and make sure that the plant is near that.
Right, yes.
Okay.
So it's best if you can have your design of where your plants are going to be as much firmed up and figured out before you put in the irrigation. Or,
Make a plan?
yes,
Whoa.
and gardeners aren't as good at that as they are about saying, there's a spot, I'd like to have a
That's
plant
right.
there.
Well, you bring up a good point. How many people have pre-existing irrigation systems? Say they bought a house, bought a property, the system's in there, and they don't think about it. The idea is the plants go first, then the irrigation system, right? As opposed to the other way around.
Right.
But a lot of people probably do it backwards.
And for drip, I think it's better to do the irrigation first. In fact, that's what we've done here is the ground was prepared, kind of rough graded, the mounds and all. We ran the tubing all over the place, and then the plants were put in. And so then you can adjust the plant to kind of match where the tubing is to get the best distribution of the water.
Mike, they look really happy. They look like they're just cooking around.
They're doing okay, and these do not get very much water.
So we've moved, and I'm winded, quite frankly. So here's a perfect example, Mike. We have 3 different types.
Yes.
And also the feeder itself, which is very interesting.
Of the micro sprinklers. And so we have a main flexible line running through here, using my handy dandy trowel to point it out. And then we have the small lines that go to the micro sprinklers connected to that. So this is an area, again, of dense planting, but the gardeners in the design decided they wanted to see how micro sprinklers worked in this area, and they've worked well. So they, like the creeping thyme here, would be a little more difficult to do with drippers because it's spread into such a large area, but with a small sprinkler there, it covers the whole area of the thyme and this penstemon and helps water the tree as well.
People look at these things, Mike, and they think, that little sprinkler can't water anything. I mean, how can it possibly spread the water around, spread the wealth?
It's magic.
It's bad.
See, later, we're going to look at some of them turned on and later on for another garden.
See it in operation.
So this is the garden for native plants and more, and we can see some of the and mores here. But again, this is a very low water area, a true xeric garden in many ways, and so that's why they chose to use these little sprinklers. And I think it's really attractive with the pea gravel and the bark and the rocks and all, and it doesn't look like a desert, does it?
It doesn't. In fact, you brought up the xeric garden
Yeah.
thing. And the one thing that we noticed when we did the xeric garden episode, there was a lot of wildlife, a lot of insects and birds.
Let's look
I
for
hear a lot.
snakes.
I hear a lot of birds.
You
right
heard a lot
now.
about, okay.
Because they like it here, don't
Yeah,
they?
uh-huh.
They're going, oh, gonna go see the community garden. I
Yeah.
like it here. Because I don't know if you can hear it or not, but there's a lot of birds here.
There are.
They seem to like it here.
Okay, so now now I want to look at one other type of application here in this native plant garden, and that is that where there are more shrubs, and because you can use drip irrigation with shrubs.
We've gone to another part of the Natives and More garden here, and what we wanted to do is talk about if you don't use drip irrigation, the alternative then is overhead watering, and what happens in a shrub setting when you use overhead watering. So what we have here is our number of shrubs, and originally this was watered with sprinklers, pop-up sprinklers in the ground. As the shrubs grew, we discovered, not surprisingly, that the shrub was right in front of the sprinkler, and that one was growing great, and the one behind it was not, because the one in front was getting all the water. So what we have had to do is raise the sprinkler head. We've done it here with pipe and stake to get it up over the shrubs, over the plants close to it, and provide more general watering of the area. And that has worked fine, except that this is visible now, and so depending upon your aesthetics, if you don't want to see your irrigation, then it's not as good. Had we irrigated this the same as we did on the other side that we saw when we first came over here with the dripper tube all serpentined around the ground, we've not had this sprinkler here to be visible.
But it would be impossible to retrofit this now, wouldn't it? No, not
Nothing's
possible.
impossible.
Nothing's impossible. It would be more work than I would be willing to do.
Yes, all it takes is time and money and sweat equity. Yes.
Okay, you know, I just love these this part of the garden because it's flowery from early spring until late fall. There's real advantages to these native and almost native plants, the xeric plants. It is really a charming part of this garden for people to come and visit.
And I don't know if the cameras can pick it up, but once again, there are pollinators all over this right now, isn't there?
Yeah, but that's what it's all about.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, let's go look at it. Let's go look at another application now, and this is with trees and shrubs.
Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees will be right back after this.
Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees on the NCW Life channel.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees. Dan Kuntz, Bonnie Orr, Mike Hammer. We are at the Community Education Garden at the intersection of Western and Springwater here in beautiful Wenatchee. We're still talking about drip irrigation and irrigation in general, but specifically drip irrigation, the do's, the don'ts, and the real benefits of it. And sometimes mistakes are made, innocent mistakes, but sometimes they happen, and this is what we're talking about here, right?
Yes, and also plants grow.
Yeah, they're funny about that, aren't they?
Yeah. And
If you did the irrigation right to start with, they grow.
Oh, good one, Mike.
That's our objective.
yes.
So we have a Japanese maple here.
Okay, this tree was planted in 2010 or 11, and it was small, maybe at the most an inch in diameter. And this was the watering, the drip irrigation that was provided for it. A circle here of about 12 inches in diameter. It has 3 drippers. And that was fine when the tree was a baby. But now, 7 years later, the tree is much bigger. It's about 3 inches in diameter at the base. And it had another problem in addition to the small irrigation, which was good for the first year. The tree was planted too deep. And we want to plant the tree so that the flare of the trunk is at ground level.
So in the flare is where as a tree grows, it actually gets more dense at the base. And so the bottom of the trunk is always fatter than as the trunk goes up. And you can see on this one how deeply it was originally buried, because it's a different color. And that's a death knell for a tree. It's a very common cause of tree death.
And we actually did an episode on people planting trees too deep.
Yeah.
Frequently, when a tree is purchased, it's too deep in the pot that you're buying it in, or the balled and burlapped. It may have been fine in the field, but when they harvested it from the field and potted it or balled and burlapped it for retail, they probably made it too deep. We frequently said plant plants at the same depth as they are when you buy them, and that's okay as far as it goes, but you need to look for the flare, because the flare here is the key aspect of where to plant the tree. So what we did here, two things recently. We increased the irrigation, and we adjusted the grade here so that the tree was no longer too deep or didn't have a crater around it. So we moved all the mulch back, removed soil from this area, and then installed additional loops of dripper tubing here. And the idea was that we would have at least 2 circles and at least as far out as the drip line of the tree. And the drip line is where the branches come out from the trunk, because the roots are out to at least the drip line.
Well, and the thing is that and generally, by rule of thumb, the roots are 1.5 times its height. So, and this tree is not mature yet, so it would not be 1.5 times its height, but at maturity. So they would have to put another ring eventually out here. And this is the wonder of working with this very pliable material.
Well, it's very versatile.
That's right. You can add another ring without any problems. So sometimes what happens is that when people are planting a tree or a shrub, they put the dripper right next to the trunk because they think that that's where the roots are. Well, all you do is rot the trunk. So notice that this is about 12 to 18 inches away from the trunk, which is perfectly right. And then we have another one out to the drip line. And then I would say in another 2 years, they would put in another circle out here.
Yes.
So this Japanese maple has a future.
Yes.
Okay.
That's our plan.
Okay. I mean,
Now,
it's not too late to save it. 'Cause
right.
We've seen trees that were planted to begin with and in the wrong spot, and they've never really had a chance. This Japanese maple, because the adjustments that you said you've made,
Yes.
and is going to give it a chance to really get going.
It was not living solely on this water. We have a ground cover juniper here. We have Weigelia over here. We've got this there were other trees. So there were other drippers around in here, and plants are really good at finding water. And so the roots would have been over here at these other places, but clearly this was not sufficient for a long and healthy life of this tree.
One of the things we could look at in the fall is, okay, so if the tree is growing more rapidly because it has more water, we will have the spaces between these final nodes will have increased dramatically compared to previous years. Okay, and so that's one of the ways they can find out if their water is working effectively. If the water's not working effectively, you can also see where the space between the nodes has diminished, and you go, ooh, it's time to do something. So the tree kind of tells you in the fall, well, here's how my year's been.
As long as you recognize the signs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As long as you're listening.
Yes.
So I want to go to another garden. Okay, the rose garden behind us.
Yes. Let's do that.
Okay, let's turn around.
Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees will be right back after this.
Have a fun video you'd like to see featured on NCW Life? Email us at newsphotos@ncwlife.com.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees on the NCW Life channel.
All right, here we are in the rose garden. Would you like to meet the queen?
I would love to meet the queen.
Okay, I think that there's a way. Don't you have to curtsy, or you?
No, I'm a man.
Curtsy.
I bow.
Okay,
I
I'm going
bow.
to curtsy. Okay,
Yeah.
This is Queen Elizabeth. Okay, and this actually is the rose that was developed when she was coronated in 1952.
1952. Wow.
Right. Yeah, isn't that something? It's older than you.
Not going to go there.
Okay, anyway, so one of the ways in which this garden is watered is with these rings. And Mike, tell us about this.
Okay, all of our roses are watered with a ring of dripper tube around them, bigger than this. This would be too small for these roses. It's maybe 2 to 2.5 feet in diameter, would have 6 to 8 drippers, and just I've removed some of the mulch here so you can see the drip tube. It's right here. And just to see how things are going, I have the trowel here, and I've dug into the soil a little bit, and it is nice and wet. And this watered this morning, so it will have a chance to dry out before it waters again. We water the roses every other day, and they run for about an hour. So this rose would get, if it has 8 drippers, 4 gallons per hour, it'd get 4 gallons of water every other day in the hot weather. We're in our hot weather kind of mode now because the weather is hot now.
Always in the morning, Mike?
Yes.
Always in the morning.
We water early in the morning, starting at some 4 a.m., 5 a.m. So we're done by 8 or 9.
And we talked about this before the last time we were here. On a timer or
Yes.
manually?
On a timer.
And you can adjust the timer to any
Yes.
time you want as we get longer days or shorter days.
Yes.
And this is one of the advantages of drip, is that you don't have to worry about what time of day you're going to water, because you are not going to have evaporation if you try to water at
Right.
noon. You don't have the wind, the problem with the wind. This is a true advantage to me of drip, is that it's doing its job and the environment is not affecting it at all.
I know orchardists who have an app on their smartphone that can get out of bed and turn on the sprinklers at an orchard 35 miles
I know,
away
I know.
on their phone app. Is that the next big thing in gardening?
Yeah, it could be.
Could be.
Could be. So we have to recover. I want to cover those
Yes.
worms up.
Okay, before they
The worms. Did you
get
see the worms?
sunburned here.
Oh, do we have worms?
Yeah, we don't want them sunburned.
No, we don't. We love worms. Worms
Yeah,
are good.
Yeah.
So we just tidy up, and our check of our drip irrigation is complete. And we
Now
should
wait a
do
minute,
that
Mike.
periodically.
Yeah, I was going to say, how often do you check that?
Well, not very often.
As often-
Don't do as I do as I say
as I
on
say,
this.
right.
Well, there's a committee. There's a rose committee. Okay, each one of these gardens has a committee of committed master gardeners, and they're out here deadheading and checking for disease. And I imagine that they also are keeping an eye
Yes.
on the
and
drip.
if there's a leak, it's pretty evident because the mulch is washed away, or plant is not looking looking good. But I think for a real drip irrigation setup, I think it should be checked every 2 weeks.
And these guys looked awful this spring. We had a terrible time when we tried to prune them, and I mean, they're just absolutely beautiful now. Look at Mr. Lincoln. Isn't he grand?
And
He's a
I
different-
don't want to, I know, Bonnie, you don't like to toot your own horn, but are you part of the rose committee?
No.
You're not, but you're pretty good at roses.
Yes.
Yeah. Because this is a great area to grow roses.
Yeah,
In fact,
yeah.
maybe one of the best areas anywhere to grow roses.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
No
Yeah.
question about it.
Okay.
Where to?
Okay, we're going to go look at the shade garden, right?
Okay, yep.
Okay. The Alcova is not a tree that is really well known in our area, and we're trying to help people know about new trees. And the Arbor Day Committee works on this, also introducing new plants.
It seems happy.
Yes,
It
yes.
seems happy.
And it's fast growing. This tree was planted in 2010, so now we're 7 or 8 years later, and it's a foot in diameter, maybe 12 inches diameter at the base. And this was about a 1-inch tree, 1.5-inch tree when it was planted. So
And here we have drip irrigation appropriately applied to a very large tree. And show us how this is going, Mike.
well, we had a small loop around the tree, and then 2 years ago we significantly expanded the loop. So what I've done here now is just picked a spot with the mulch on here. We don't know where the tubes are, but a good way to check if your irrigation is working properly is just pick a spot and see if the soil is damp. So what I've done here is moved the mulch back and just dug in a little bit, and we have nice damp soil.
So how does the water spread through the soil?
Osmosis?
No. No, is it going, does it move sideways or straight down?
Well, the plan is that it does indeed move sideways, in addition to down. So the loops of the dripper tube are spaced 12, 14, 18 inches apart, And the idea is that the water goes down and goes out at the same time, and it meets in between the two rings of tubing, and so the whole area is wet.
And it looks like you have two damp areas where it has, or maybe that's damp all the way through from, well, yes it is. It's damp all the way through from one ring to another.
So we're down here 2-3 inches, and it's pretty firm soil, but it's not dry.
Let's talk about pitch. Let's talk about slope when it comes to drip irrigation. This is a fairly flat area, but if you put it on a slope that's, at 30 degrees, it doesn't matter. It's going to run where gravity wants to take it anyway, right, Mike?
It will go downhill, yes, on a bank, on a slope. So you need to keep that in mind a little bit with the dripper locations, or where the drip tube might be, because it'll go downhill more than it will go uphill. But you can manage that.
Are you an engineer? So, isn't there pressure regulated tubing also?
Yes, and all that, the idea of that is to get the same amount of water coming out of every dripper, so that you don't have more water coming out of the ones at the front end of the line, so to speak, where the pressure is higher than it is down at the end.
Of a slope, at the top end of a slope, and not at the bottom, or
right.
all running down at the bottom. Okay.
It'd be best, if you do have a slope, to run the lines across the slope rather than up and down. So go across, expect that plant the plant below the line, and depending upon how steep the slope is, you might need to put in more horizontal lines on a slope than you would in the equivalent area that's flat.
And also the condition of the soil plays a role as well, right? Whether you got sandy soil or clay or something like that.
Sandy loam or whatever,
Right.
or how much organic material can hold that. Now, everybody's thinking we're just whistling Dixie here because we keep talking about these parts, but we haven't seen the water running. So let's go look at a system that's actually running right now.
Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees will be right back after this.
Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life Community Calendar at ncwlife.com.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees on the NCW Life channel.
Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees. We're here at the Community Education Garden at the intersection of Western and Springwater in Wenatchee. We've been talking about drip irrigation systems. We've done everything but actually watch them in action, and now we get to see them in action, do we not?
We do. We'll see micro sprinklers. You couldn't tell if we had actual drip irrigation in operation or not. There's nothing to see there. So
Well, the camera would get dirty and wet too.
yes. But if some visual feedback is what you need, then micro sprinklers are the way to go.
And this is a garden that started out early in the spring with fabulous flowers, and it's just transitioning into its summer flowers. And you can see that they are all very happy. Do you know how long this garden, how long these micros run in each day or every other, whatever their system is?
They run for an hour every other day. And you'll see that along the path here, we have ones that spray in a half circle. So it's just the water only goes out into the plant area. And farther up on the top of the mound, you can see we have a little rotating one that goes around in a circle and waters a circular area around the sprinkler. And that is actually, we've found that to be a reliable and effective sprinkler in that it covers a lot of ground and it doesn't get plugged up.
So the reason that it doesn't get plugged up is that it has a larger orifice, or because it moves faster because it's round, it goes around?
It's the larger orifice. It therefore puts out a lot of water, covers a pretty big area, so you need fewer of them if your area is, that goes about a 15-foot diameter circle. So it's good in that regard. If you have a smaller area to water, you'll need one that puts out less water, covers a smaller area, and that is more likely to plug because the little opening in it, the orifice, will be smaller.
That one is red. Does that mean that it's 3 gallons per hour? Are they keyed into something blue? Am I asking a question that?
Well, remember the episode we talked about the different colors of the sprinkler heads, right?
They are color coded, but it's not a common system across all the manufacturers. So depending upon what brand you're buying or what store you go to, within that brand, they will be color coded. Typically red are higher flow, larger area, green, blue, maybe black is the smallest. We use
Microwaves, about microwave instructions. Every single manufacturer, you cannot depend on, you know how to run a microwave, right?
I just don't use mine. It's
Because everybody made different ways of pushing the buttons. And this is the same thing. It would be lovely if we always knew that red put out 3 gallons an hour. And, you know,
It's terrible. You have to read the instructions.
oh my gosh.
No. It should be pointed out that Mike turned this on manually. Normally, you would not be watering in the middle of the afternoon on a windy day, right?
Right, that's correct. This waters again early in the morning. Less wind, less heat, less loss of water to evaporation. So that clearly you'd like to do it in the morning if you could. Now, if your water supply in your neighborhood is such that your pressure is too low in the morning when everybody else is watering their lawns, then if you have drip irrigation, it's great. You can just water. The drip does not need as high a pressure. You don't need to worry, and if you watered later in the day with drip, you don't need to worry about wind or evaporation. So you can work, you can work around your neighbor's use of water.
And it should be pointed out that a lot of people use a lot of water in the morning. You're taking your showers, you're making your coffee, you're doing your dishes, you're doing laundry, and so that's
You're busy in the morning.
Well, I am anyway. But Mike makes a very, very good point.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, something interesting, I'm looking at how the water is saturating this ground over here. And where the plants are, you can see that water is starting to build up on the soil. But where there are no plants, look, there's no water. Isn't that interesting? That they have very skillfully placed the distribution so that you are not wasting water.
So we've been talking about all the great things that a drip irrigation system can do, but it's not all beans and Skittles. There are sometimes little things happen, and Mike, and this is a perfect example of that. We have a little shrub here that's right next to a sprinkler, but it's not getting any water, is it?
Indeed so. This sprayer was probably bumped, and one nice thing about it, it's easy to fix. We can just turn the head a little bit, and this little evergreen here will now be getting a drink. And there's plenty of water to go around. We haven't really hurt anybody on this side, reaching everything there. So that fixed that. Now that illustrates one of the drawbacks of micro sprinklers, in that they're above the ground. They have a short piece of tubing that goes to them, so it's easy to trip over that tubing. And speaking from my own experience, it's easy to step on them. And they bend, and you straighten them back up, and then the next time you're in the area, you step on them again.
Not to mention weed whackers and lawnmowers, right?
Yes.
That's right. I mean, if you're next to something else, right? But and if somebody's just admiring the garden and they aren't looking where they're going, you know, it's. But one of the and again, these are visible. And you were talking about the aesthetics of having the material totally under the ground, so that it just looks like nature's watering it. We're fooling that. We're fooling people with this. But you know, this shows that you're doing some work.
And there's nothing. This is aesthetically pleasing to me.
Yeah, I think so too.
They're fun to watch.
Yeah.
They are fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially the little sprinkler back here.
Yeah, get a shot of that. That's kind of cool. That little red thing there.
The little umbrella one. I like that one. See, you could sit here. Put a hammock back there, okay? And then you could be in the hammock and you could just have that water just sort of trickling out. Now this is really interesting, Mike, because here is a fairly vigorous distributor here. This
here in front of it.
This micro. But I am noticing that it's a type of a tree. Is this a Budley eye? Or is it a filbert? Who knows? Yeah. It doesn't have a label on it. But here's a second thing, and look, there's a ring. So because this is going to be a larger bush, it is going to need more water than just the micros. So you can combine these things together and it doesn't hurt. Whereas if you have a regular system, you know, out of PVC and uprights, it's difficult to put different types of heads on.
Right. And everything in the area of the sprinkler is getting the same amount of water. In this case, we have a sprayer over here, and it's just got a few things that it's watering, and they don't take very much water. And here we have a larger plant with a sprayer, but we've added the dripper tubing around it, and so it's getting the water it needs for its size.
So we've taught everything that we've done here so far today has been plants and shrubs, and trees and flowers. What about vegetables? The practical application of this kind of system on your vegetable garden.
We do have vegetable gardens.
And it works great.
Many people do drip their vegetable garden. I think, Mike, you're a
I do mostly drip. However, the sprayers are really useful when you've just got fresh seed beds, because they provide even watering across the whole area where you have seeds in. If you just have the drip tube, it's kind of a spot every 6 inches or so, and it's fine once the seeds have germinated and you have a plant. The roots will find it, but when you're trying to keep the seeds damp, spraying is better.
Yeah, well, the other thing that I do not have drip in my vegetable garden, and the last few nights when it's been really, really windy, I have not really effectively watered. In fact, I haven't watered, and my tomatoes have been pouting because of it. And because yours are on drip.
They look fine this morning.
Yeah. So
Survived the wind.
there are advantages and disadvantages.
Right.
Yeah. Can you show us an example of vegetables on drip?
I'd like to see that.
Okay.
We can do that.
Let's do that.
Here we are at one of our vegetable raised beds, and we wanted to show you how you can do with vegetables, particularly in a raised bed setting, with a micro sprinkler. We've got a little micro sprinkler on here. We have drip tube mixed in around the plants, and then we have the larger drip tube around the perimeter of the box to provide even watering over the whole area of the box. And I think if you come back in the fall, you'll see roots covering the whole area because there's water everywhere. And these plants look pretty good. We have peppers here, peppers there, peppers there.
One languishing lettuce.
Sunflower. Yeah, lettuce time is about over.
Yeah, it's a languishing lettuce. That's right. Yes, but and this runs for about 10 minutes. Every day or twice a day?
I think so. I water in this warm weather with my raised beds at home. I water for 10 minutes every day.
Okay. So, and that's good. And because I like the idea that you have so many different systems to fill the spaces, because my experience had been that there were dry spots in between where the emitters were. I'll have to try something different.
You need, I use the 1/4-inch tubing. I have it a loop wrapped around every tomato plant, both sides of a pepper plant. It's important on the tomatoes that they be watered evenly, as we know from the blossom end rot. And the loop around the plant, encircling it, is the key, I think, to getting even watering on tomatoes.
Okay, well, thank you for that tutorial.
And this is a perfect example because we just turned this on just to give folks at home an idea of what it looks like. But in the very brief time this has been on, maybe 2 minutes, everything is evenly watered.
Yes.
Everything. There's no dry spots.
Yep, that's correct.
Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees will be right back after this. Please join us weekly for the 12th District with yours truly, Kerry Condata. Check your channel guide for times or go to ncwlife.com for details. Welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees on the NCW Life channel.
Wrapping up this week's edition of Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees, super duper thanks to our expert Mike Hammer. You know all the experts because you know a lot about gardening, but you don't know everything about gardening.
I
And you've
don't.
always done a good job of bringing in the experts.
There are really interesting people in our community who are really well informed about gardening, and Mike is certainly one of them. We've had a great walk around today.
We did. So hopefully the folks at home are saying, I think I might be interested in sprinklers, in drip systems. It could save me lots of money on my water bill. It's going to make my plants grow better.
It'll look better on your garden.
Aesthetically, it looks great. You don't have to worry about sprinklers and all that good stuff. So where do they go from here, Mike? Say, I'm in, Mike. What do I do?
Okay, there's good information from Washington State University. Our Master Gardeners are a WSU extension program. They have a great fact sheet bulletin on the internet. You can just search WSU drip irrigation. You'll find things there. We also have the Master Gardeners Clinic, Mondays and Wednesdays, 1 to 4, at the Extension Office, 400 Washington Street in Wenatchee. come see us. We can give you advice there and point you to more resources.
I've seen them at the farmers market also.
Yeah, they're there. They're there on Thursday nights and on Saturday mornings.
Just Saturday morning. I think.
You see them there. Yeah, the Master Gardeners are there, always booth. And the most important thing is, it's not that expensive. In fact, it's the cost in the long run, it will pay for itself, will it not?
It's reasonable.
Well, what will pay for itself is you don't have to do any trenching.
That's a beautiful thing.
I did my whole thing hand trenching.
And we've also talked about this, it's easy to retrofit. If you already have an existing irrigation system, it's not that hard to take something that you already have and turn it into one of these systems, isn't it?
That's correct. You can take out an existing sprinkler head, convert it to a drip irrigation system, take out your grass, no more lawn mowing, put in shrubs or perennials, and put mulch around it. Put the irrigation, the drip tube down before you put the mulch down, though. That's highly recommended.
And then you can golf forever.
I know. I love it when you bring up golf.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go golfing, and Bonnie's going to hop in her hammock, apparently. Special thanks to our friends at the Community Gardens for allowing us to come by. By the way, if you've never been to this beautiful campus, it's absolutely free, dawn to dusk. Come by, take a look at it, eat your lunch here. It's a beautiful campus, isn't it?
It's wonderful. I just really enjoy it. There's birds. It's actually quite quiet, even though it's near the busy road. And many times there are days when people work here. On Friday, I believe, is a work day. And Friday morning. And so there are dozens of people here then caring for each garden, because each garden has a committee.
And perhaps the most important thing of all, the variety of plants that you get here is going to plant the seed in your mind that this is what I like. I like this. I like the look of this shrub or the look of that flower, because it's all here. You get a little bit of everything.
It's wonderful.
It is wonderful. On behalf of Private Detective Mike Hammer, who, by the way, is retired from detective work, and my lovely friend Bonnie Orr, I'm Dan Kuntz, Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.